Yo, what's up, man?
What is up? How's it going?
Oh, it's going good, dude. It's going good. I'm excited to finally talk about this since we're a bit late. But how are you doing?
I'm doing good. It is the end of a week. This is going to be weird, but I just watched episode 2 of What If, but we're not talking about episode 2. We're talking about episode 1.
Talking about episode
And
one.
yeah, we've been so used to chatting together on Exandria Unlimited. So it's a mental shift to be like, okay, now we're talking about something different again. But
Yeah,
I'm good though. I'm excited to be here. How are you doing today?
good, man. What what if we waited till after episode two to talk about episode one?
Yeah. And maybe we should, here's a little bit of the backstory, which, by the way, for those of you guys who are listening, we're the Pixelists. It's the
Oh,
Pixelist podcast.
yeah, thanks.
Um, yeah, I'm Blake.
I'm Will.
Yeah, and we're your Pixelist hosts. And we always kind of joke about, like, who are the Pixelists? Are we all the Pixelists together? I don't know. But we talk about our favorite shows, games, movies. We need to get a game in here because we
Yeah, we
haven't, we
do.
haven't, we have not equally represented that category.
Yeah, we haven't.
But we just get together and we're just some nerds who just talk stuff that we like and kind of deep dive and chat and discuss and like, ooh, what's happening here? What do you think about this? And we're here today to talk about Marvel's newest show on Disney Plus, called What If?
What if?
And we're putting this episode out in kind of a weird time because episode 2's already come out. We've both watched episode 2,
Yeah.
but we're not talking about episode 2. We're talking about episode 1. And a little bit of that's a combination of my man Will, he was out of town for a little bit, but also I had told Will from the get-go because Will was like, hey, we gotta do this. And I was like, I don't know yet. I don't know if I'm gonna watch it yet. But watched episode 1, really enjoyed it, and thought, okay, let's give the Pixel a spin on this. So here we are, episode 1, even though the timing's a bit strange.
Yeah, yes, sir. Great introduction. Thank you for taking over there since I completely forgot to do that. And yeah, Marvel's What If. It's exactly that. It's an animated show, 30 minutes, maybe give or take. I think there's 9 episodes in this first season here, and they just ask the question. I kind of don't know how to be with spoilers. I guess it's fine if you're watching What If. The multiverse has kind of been broken open in the MCU, and What If is kind of just posing these what if questions to see what these different realities and universes would look like if blank was changed. And so I think it's super cool concept, will be super interesting, and they are seemingly treating it like a main part of the continuity. Like this isn't just this a one-off thing for fun. Like no, that's like on Disney Plus, What If is in the playlist of Marvel MCU timeline in order. So
Yeah,
like
I
they put it in there.
I had wondered, is this stuff canon in the sense of like, here are the possible, to borrow from the Watcher who we meet in the first episode,
Yeah.
infinite, it's a prism, infinite possibility, infinite universes. And I wondered, is this kind of like just a fun, like, oh, what if instead of Captain America, we had Captain Carter?
Ooh.
But so is it that this is canon in the sense that there is a universe out there that there is a Captain Carter?
Yeah, great word. Thank you. I couldn't think of that. But yes, canon. That sums it up perfectly. I believe it is canon. Which is just super cool and exciting. And those are the things you can do when you have a multiverse. So,
But I won't get into. I have so many
yeah,
questions
yeah.
on that, but I don't want to break up the vibe or the flow of what we want to talk about today. Do you want to give like just a very brief recap on what
Yeah.
happens in this first episode?
Yeah, okay. So yeah, let's dive in and we'll start it off with a quick recap. So episode 1 of What If, they pose the question, what if Peggy Carter was the first Avenger? So if you're familiar with the first Captain America movie starring Chris Evans, the first Avenger, we basically return to that same setting, that same story, and pick up right where Steve Rogers, a skinny Steve Rogers, is about to get the super serum. And he and Peggy are friends just like they were in the MCU movie. And the only difference is, and I believe the exact moment was, I forget who it was, but they tell Peggy like, "Hey, you want to go up to the like observation room to watch this?" And she says, "No, like I'll stay here." And that decision is what branched the timeline and caused this whole new one that the episode's about. And So if you recall the movie, there is a like Soviet, maybe even a Hydra spy that's in the room. I don't know if he's Hydra or not, but
It's a Hydra spy, yeah.
okay.
Hydra spy. That's obviously it's not to get too in the weeds, but Hydra is the deep science division of
Okay.
the Nazis.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, Hydra Spy has a little bomb that he sets off, explodes, and he runs up and shoots Steve Rogers in the chest. And so Steve is unable to get in the contraption, unable to become the super soldier that we have seen him become in the MCU. And instead, Peggy Carter steps up, gets in there, and becomes super soldier Peggy Carter, who is then becomes known as Captain Carter. And the episode basically is just a quick unfolding of her kind of running through a very similar line of events that we saw Steve run through in the first Captain America movie. The big noticeable differences being that obviously Steve is not Captain America, and instead Howard Stark creates for him a like prototype Iron Man esque armor that he pilots around.
Which was so funny when this happened, because when the first scene where he pops up and she's like, "Oh my gosh, Steve," and he's like, "Hey," I was like, "Oh my gosh, they brought in the Iron Giant
Yes,
into." I was like, "It's very Iron Giant esque." And my wife loves the Iron Giant. It's like a childhood
great
movie, and so
movie.
she was laughing about it. And then there was like silence, and then I was like, "Oh wait, I guess this is supposed to be Iron Man." Actually, I thought it was
But
like a random robot, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's kind of a cool detail that it's like the early prototype, very familiar of that first Iron Man suit that Tony
yeah,
Stark builds in a cave, with a
with a
pile of
box of
scraps."
scraps, yeah.
Yeah.
But totally
So,
Iron Giant vibes. I thought the same thing. But I think they call it the Hydra Stomper in this episode. That's
right,
what he's referred to. And so anyway, Peggy, Steve, and the Howling Commandos with Bucky Barnes, he's also here, kind of go on their covert op missions and trying to take down Hydra. Um, the other big difference here is that Red Skull is in the main MCU timeline. He's like making big weapons and stuff with the Tesseract. Here, his goal is to use the Tesseract to summon the Hydra champion, which we come to
right.
find out is this mini tentacled beast. And the
Mhm.
culmination of the episode is basically him summoning that. And these massive tentacles are pouring out of this portal and destroying everything. They kill Red Skull, in fact,
That was
seemingly.
great. Yeah.
And basically, Steve, his power, his Iron Man suit loses power, and so it's basically all that the only chance I have left is for Peggy to physically force this beast back through the portal. In so doing, sacrificing herself to the mystery of going through the portal as well. So she goes through it, saves the day, but she's gone. And the kicker is that she reappears in the scene from Avengers 1 that we're familiar
Yep.
with, where Loki comes out of the Tesseract. Instead, she does. And she's met by Nick Fury and Hawkeye. And presumably, it's the exact same like time
Right.
frame, about 70 years later. Um, so just like Steve was frozen in ice for 70 years and misplaced in time, now our Captain Carter version is as well, and that's where the episode ends off. And yeah, a lot of details and nuance I'm sure we'll talk about going forward,
Yeah.
but that was the episode in a nutshell.
Great job. And let's talk immediate reactions. So going back to, so I know we both have watched episode 2, which we're not going to talk about today. That'll be in another episode that we'll put up
Yeah.
here shortly. But getting to the end of episode 1, we didn't know a lot about what the show was going to be, other than there was this kind of mutual excitement around, okay, the multiverse. The multiverse is here. We know we have some major films, Doctor Strange 2. We know that Spider-Man No Way Home is going to have some kind of factor with the multiverse. But this is like our first, jumping into the multiverse. What was
Yeah.
your reaction after seeing the end of episode 1?
First of all, I'm excited. And really, when I first heard about What If, like when they did the big announcement, 2 years ago or whatever it was when it was first announced, I was like, oh, cool. Like an animated show. They're just gonna like do fun things. And I didn't even what fees? Infeasible is a word, but is fees a word? I didn't. I didn't
It's
even.
feasible.
I.
Feasible. I don't know what word you're trying to say,
I don't know.
honestly.
I didn't even imagine that it like would be in the realm of
Sure.
canon. Like it could be like actual part of the MCU. I just thought it was gonna be like, hey, here's some fun side stories that like
Yeah,
we'll
right.
use MCU properties in. But now coming off of Loki, and if for some reason you haven't seen Loki, like maybe get away for a second because spoilers. But with Loki being like the backdrop to this series, it's like, oh no, like the multiverse is now open, and like how Galaxy Brain of Marvel to like plot things out this way. Like now we're immediately jumping into all these universes that are now able to exist since, Kang slash the TVA isn't pruning them. Um, anyway, so
And that you just said that answers my biggest question around canon. I was like, so why are these other stories being allowed to exist? And like my wife and I
yeah,
talked about it, and I totally forgot. You're so right. The big implication from the end of Loki was killing Kang, or He Who Remains,
right.
now means that these alternate universes run rampant. Which I didn't put that together, so I appreciate you pointing that out.
Yeah, exactly. And like I mentioned a little bit earlier, on Disney Plus, there is a playlist of Marvel movies that they say, like, here's the MCU in chronological order. So it starts with Captain America 1, even though, that was like the fourth movie that came out. But so in that chronological order, they have What If right after Loki, which makes sense because now the multiverse is open. Um, so anyway, this was a very long-winded answer to your question, but immediate thoughts are I'm just super excited. Like this is so cool, and I think such a creative way to explore like this Pandora's box that they just
Mm,
opened with Loki. And I'm just there's so many fun moments, like so many self-referential moments, and so many like cool little like Easter
yeah,
eggs that like you can be like,
yeah.
oh, like connecting it to the original version. That like I'm just excited to see what they do. And yeah, I enjoyed it. What about you?
I liked it. Yeah, I went in. This is going to sound really strange. I went in with I don't want to say low expectations. I didn't expect it to be bad. It just wasn't like when I saw the trailer for WandaVision and especially the trailer for Loki. The trailer for
Mm,
Loki, I was like, I have to see this show.
yeah.
Like this is going to be amazing. And I mean the quality of Marvel to have a trailer that looks amazing and then you go in and you watch and you're like, wow, that was exactly what I wanted it to be for the most part.
Yeah.
What If I thought was a really cool concept, but I didn't really have much expectations. I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna watch it and just kind of enjoy it for what it is. And I don't know if that's been for better or worse, but as sort of someone who had sort of a more casual expectation around it, I really liked it. I thought it was a cool show. My wife doesn't really watch animated shows, and we've watched both the first two episodes now, and she's liked both of them. It's cool because what's fun for us is we're doing a watch through of all Marvel movies,
Yeah.
which we skipped Hulk, which I don't know if that's a crime. It's not on Disney Plus, so that's why we couldn't watch it. But we did skip Hulk. But so last week we watched Captain America,
Oh,
and
okay. So good timing.
this like a couple of days ago we watched Avengers. So what was really fun for us was and I thought this was really cool, was it was the same story. For me, it gave me like an insight as to like how these multiple universes could exist and yet still like have important change details and yet still rhyme in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
you have Peggy Carter going through very similar scenes,
Right.
which that was also really cool, was that some of the scenes were shot by shot incredibly similar to the
Yes.
actual Captain America movie. So that was
Mm-hmm.
really cool to see. But seeing like the different spins on flavor, I mean the shot of them coming in on the speeding train, and
Yeah.
it's not Bucky who ends up falling, it's
Right.
actually Steve Rogers. Those kinds of details, it was really cool to you're watching thinking like, oh, I know what's supposed to happen, and yet there's a detail that's different. And it was cool seeing kind of like the butterfly effect of, the Tesseract actually gets stolen very quickly, very early.
Right. Right.
Instead of going out and saving the troops as the immediate mission, or going out and doing the tour around America, which Steve Rogers did,
Right.
they can't take a woman out and put her out, because there's this whole like running theme of, you shouldn't even be in the room, like some obvious sexism.
Right.
So they can't put her on stage. So she actually immediately gets into combat per se, and they steal the Tesseract. And then Red Skull not having the Tesseract sort of causes him to study that slab and like, okay, what happens next? And he starts to think about, this champion All this to say, it was cool how those small details created a very different story that still was familiar, i.e., Peggy
Yes.
Carter being the one to sacrifice herself, um, and then
Yeah.
getting teleported to the start of the Avengers movie. That's my very long-winded way of saying I did really enjoy it. I was like, wow, this is so nostalgic, but also different. It was a cool episode, so I liked it.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. And to kind of like to kind of retweet what you said there, like it's cool how they hit a lot of the same like notes of the original story, but like you were saying, like with the butterfly effect, it'll be interesting. Like, and I kind of intentionally haven't looked too far into like what exactly we're getting with What If, but I do know that like, and you know we've both seen episode 1 and 2, but I'm gonna kind of try to keep Ep 2 out of this discussion for now. Um, I know they definitely like can be their own contained things, but I do believe we are getting some connectivity. So like we may return to some of these characters at some point in this season. And I say that all of that because I hope we do, because I would love to see the ripple effect of Steve being this prototype Iron Man potentially for, 40, 50 years. Like I want to know what he's been doing while, over the course of the 70 years that Peggy got teleported. I would
And
love to see what that means. Like, and does that mean Tony Stark maybe doesn't become Iron Man because that like legacy is already kind of there, or maybe it inspires
well,
him? I don't
think
know.
about it. Here's what's kind of crazy about it is there's no Winter Soldier, okay?
Right, right.
Because Bucky Barnes didn't get basically scooped up out of the snow, and which I thought maybe they were going to go that route with Steve Rogers, but they
I
ended up
did too.
rescuing him.
Yeah, I did too.
So there's no Winter Soldier, so that means there's no Super Soldier to kill Howard Stark, which
Well,
was
there still could be because
it could
that
be
that guy took her blood. He had all those vials of Peggy's blood that they were going to use.
true, true.
But
So
yeah,
it
at
could be a
least not in
totally
the same way.
different. Yeah, I mean, it almost makes me wonder if the trajectory on Tony Stark's life is totally different now, and that speaks to that butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Um, and I going back to your comment on like connectiveness, I did wonder, and I haven't done any reading on like how the show's going to be set up, anything like that. I'm just taking it week by week. I'm like, what's today's episode?
Hmm.
I did wonder, are we going to have continuations of the story? Like, are we going to get a Peggy Carter in the Avengers 1, that version as like a follow-up episode? Or would we even see, okay, now Peggy Carter is in this universe that we see in episode 5? Like things like that I think are really interesting to me.
Yeah.
And it does make me wonder, how could we see some of these characters? Because one thing Marvel's really good at is not just one-off stories, but creating and crafting a greater narrative.
Right.
And so it does make you wonder, will there be a narrative that exists across at another 9 episodes this season, but will there be a greater narrative across the 9 episodes? And could there be any data points that are used for future Marvel films? Like, could there be a detail that you would have had to see What If to know fully, similar to, oh, well, if you're going to know who Kang is, you should
Yeah.
have seen Loki. Or will they be like, oh, it's animated, so we don't know how many people are going to watch it? I mean, I don't know. And that's not to discount an animated series. It's just there's probably a group of people who maybe wouldn't take it as seriously as a live action show. I don't know.
Right.
Um, Again, I feel like I'm rambling here, but it's just a lot of thoughts and things that I wonder about in seeing the show.
Yeah, so I think there is some connectedness. Again, I know a little bit, but I kind of wanted to kind of go in more blind than not. So I think we will see Peggy Carter again. I don't know exactly how. Um, but also I think it is like stuff that we may see here, I think will have implications on the live action MCU. Like from certain quotes of like showrunners, and maybe it was even Kevin Feige himself, but like everything seems to point to like this is a full-fledged like Marvel property, and it has implications for the now multiverse that exists. So like, I'm sure the casual fan isn't gonna like be too out of pocket if they didn't watch What If, and they're gonna be like, wait, I don't understand anything anymore. But I think there definitely will be for like the keen viewers and people that keep up with all of it. Definitely connective tissue. So yeah, I'm excited. And
Are we gonna use that connected tissue
yeah,
between? We got some connected tissue between these
that's
episodes.
right.
So I'm all for it. Yeah, yeah. It's just sorry, my dog's doing a little shake over here. Um, it's just interesting. Like I kind of wonder, and this is part of the joy of the Pixelist podcast is being able to talk through some of these ideas for like what this could entail or what this could mean. Because if we are going to see some connectedness between universes, I mean, we could see a version where Peggy Carter runs into Captain America version of Steve Rogers.
Be interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And going back to her kind of becoming who she is, it is interesting how small details change the story. Um, her not going up in the booth for whatever reason caused the bomb to be detonated before rather than after Steve Rogers becoming Captain America. And I'm not sure what other details you picked up on, but I don't know. I mean, we're kind of just talking about different things we picked up on. It'll just be interesting to see what happens, I think.
Yeah, and I guess we could just like jump into random things now if you want. I know that we kind of already touched on this a little bit, but just like the whole Iron Man Steve thing, like so seemingly the suit was created via the Tesseract, right?
Yeah, I think because they bring the Tesseract back and it's Captain America or excuse me, Captain Carter, excuse me, says basically like, "Do you know what to do with this?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I have an idea." And then immediately after we see the Hydra Stomper.
Yeah.
So yeah, I take it as like the Tesseract as being unbound potential of energy. He used it to create the Hydra Stomper.
Because it's interesting, he like multiple times claims it's indestructible, which is interesting because like I don't know, like is it made out of vibranium? Is it just like I guess it's probably not really an important thing to ponder, but like I
Yeah.
just didn't know how he made like something indestructible with the Tesseract. But
I think it's because I don't think it's vibranium because in the Captain America movie, when he picks up the shield, Howard Stark says, that's all we have of
mm,
it is right there, that amount. So it
yeah,
doesn't seem like now suddenly there'd be a different amount to build the suit with. The Tesseract is powering the suit, and we
right,
saw in Avengers 1 how the cube is basically indestructible, especially when it's activated. It's pretty difficult to pierce the barrier of energy, of pure energy that it's creating.
yeah,
So maybe in some weird aura-like way, it makes the suit indestructible. Because that's what's
yeah,
powering it rather than the arc reactor.
right. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And the I guess the Tesseract can do a lot of things because that's what gave Captain Marvel her powers, right? And she's like one of the most powerful beings in the universe.
Did the Tesseract give Captain Marvel her
I
powers?
think so. It was one of the Infinity Stones, and so I think it was that one. It was powering the ship, and then that
Right.
exploded, and that like explosion
Right.
gave her
Yeah, yeah.
powers. So why not? Why couldn't it make an indestructible suit? I guess, but yeah. And I mean I guess we already really talked about this, so we did not much else to say. But I'm just curious about what that ripple effect is of him being the Hydra Stomper, and I hope. I mean, if we do see Peggy again, it's gonna be in the future, right? Like, because that's where she is. So like, I even if we revisit her, we might not revisit Skinny
That you
Steve, you know.
right.
So I don't know if we'll get anything there, but I would love to just see even like fragments of that legacy like that exist, like the what's the word I'm looking for? Just
Easter eggs later on
yeah,
that point back to, she's in the future and there's like I don't know, like a posting somewhere that's like
yeah,
an old magazine that has like, the Hydra Stomper on it or
exactly.
something,
And
or
like if
President Steve Rogers after,
yeah, that would be
retiring
cool.
as the Hydra Stomper. I don't know.
I wonder if he's even still alive because I mean, she was alive even though she was like
Right.
on her deathbed essentially. But
Right.
yeah, I wonder if there's a current Hydra Stomper or I would love to see what Tony's doing. Um yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But just loved it really.
What I mean, what do you think? I mean, I wonder what happens like the narrative of other characters like Bucky, who,
Yeah,
is all in one piece, and we mentioned no Winter Soldier for the most part, as far as we know, excuse me.
right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, other characters, it's even like on a grander scale, you know, there's not like this massive selling war bonds like American Identity push around Captain America doing his Broadway act. You have
Right.
Captain Carter instead, and she's not even doing that either. But you have this very notable war hero, and we do know that eventually from Falcon and the Winter Soldier that Captain America's blood, they are able to recreate the serum in some way to create what was his name? Uh
Um. Elijah or Eli Bradley? They're talking about?
yeah. So does the same thing happen with her blood, and does Elijah Bradley I mean, or do they go back to Steve Rogers and say, "Hey, we have a second chance at this"? I mean, I don't know.
I mean, they definitely are because like that army guy was like pissed, you know. He's like, women can't be soldiers, and you know, he took all those vials of her blood. 100%, they're trying to recreate it, and so you know, we might get. I don't
I don't
know enough about
I
like
don't I don't
the
I don't trust him because he's the bad guy in Billy Madison.
dude. He's Josh Lyman from The West Wing, so he's a good guy there.
That's the other one. Yeah, that's true.
Um, but yeah, we might get like Red Hulk or like I don't know. Like, there's just so many like things throughout the comics that like were not necessarily based on this Peggy Carter variant, but like on the super soldier serum. Like that's how Wolverine got created. Um, Deadpool, kind of.
Oh, okay. So I don't know this deep dive history. So I know the Hulk primarily was trying to recreate the serum and used gamma radiation, thinking that was like a maybe like a secret sauce.
Yeah.
Becomes the Hulk. I didn't know Wolverine was through the same line of, you know, let's create this serum and use this serum.
Yeah. So like, you know, Wolverine is called Weapon X. So it's like the 10th iteration of that like experimentation trying to create like the ultimate weapon or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I don't know if they like used Steve Rogers' blood to do it, but
Oh,
like
okay.
it
That's what I
was
was wondering. Was
they
like,
maybe
wow,
they did. But I actually don't know. Like I probably shouldn't have even said it
this
since
goes
I'm
way deeper than we realized.
but yeah,
So
it's all the same like lineage of like the super soldier program is what
yeah, I'm
leads
trying to
to
like keep us
Wolverine.
from going like way too far down a rabbit trail because like then I'm like for a second there I was like, okay, was Wolverine was he vibranium? And I was like, no, he was
Right,
adamantine, right?
adamantium. Mhm.
Adamantium, right? Which then I'm like, okay, in the Marvel universe, how did those two elements compare to one another?
Yeah.
Um,
I think vibranium's slightly stronger. I don't know. Because like
yeah.
he was I don't know.
Let us know in the comments. If you know clearly way more than we do, which one's stronger, vibranium or adamantium?
And then we've got
Um,
unobtainium from the Avatar universe.
right. Yeah.
um, but so yeah, I guess I don't need to postulate any more on that. But another thing, and I'm just kind of jumping around. So if you've got anything, you know, feel free to kick in. But the tentacled monster that Red Skull, sorry, I couldn't think of his name, summons. I'm wondering what that is. As I've seen some speculation that it was Shumagorath, who's like this great old one, kind of like akin to like a Cthulhu sort of entity. And some people have speculated that he might be, if not the villain, like a villain in this Doctor Strange movie coming out. So it would be crazy, like if it was the same thing, like in like this moment with like Red Skull in this what if universe is what like domino effects leads to Shumagorath like maybe
Okay,
coming into
so
the Prime
I
MCU.
I didn't know that connection. I was randomly reading about Multiverse of Madness, and I think it said something like Shuma Gorath was confirmed as,
Mm,
which I don't know anything about this character. I just read it.
yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, cool, interesting. But yeah, the big chicken Tindy monster was pretty cool, and I love that she grabbed a sword. I was
Yeah, that
like,
was cool. I
what
was
a
like,
nice little flavor difference.
yeah.
Um,
It's like convenient placement, but I'm here for it.
yeah. And of course, naturally, Red Skull, you know, it's the perfect cliche of or trope or whatever you want to call it of the, you know, the scientist being killed by its creation, I guess. Um, so I thought that was great, you know, him getting grabbed by the tentacle and then immediately just smashed.
That was good.
So
Uh, but yeah, so like if if that is Shumagorath, that's really cool. The only other like random connection I saw somebody make was it kind of looked like the monster that they fight in Guardians 2 at like the beginning of the movie because it had a bunch of tentacles and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was like, it'd be cool if like they somehow made that connection.
Well, here's what's interesting is it's the reason he's first thinking about that Red Skull's thinking about his champion is, like I said, the Tesseract's been stolen. He's had that wooden slab pulled from that chapel, and it's now in his lab. And he's looking it over, and he sees the cube at the center of this. I just think of it as like a Malboro from Final Fantasy, like a very circular tentacle like
Yeah.
thing. And so I think about, that slab is it's. I don't want to say it's Asgardian. It's not, but it's talking about like Yggdrasil, the World Tree, and um, the whole explanation from the movie Thor, which we saw a few weeks ago, was
Nice.
that every branch of Yggdrasil is one of the 9 realms. So it's like all life comes
Okay.
from. So that's why I say it's Asgardian in the sense of
Yeah, yeah.
there's a connection there. And so I wonder then what's the relationship then of that creature with Asgard or
Hmm.
the Watcher of the Realms, or and I don't know if there is a connection there or what the connection is there, but they're both on the same slab.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
True. Yeah, I don't know enough about the deep lore to maybe piece those informations together. The Shumagorath is the only like tentacle creature I was even familiar with, and I think that's probably true for most people, which is why people are making that assumption. So it might just be a tentacle monster, that doesn't really have any
Yeah.
significance beyond that. But
I think it's maybe Mephisto.
I
So,
think you might be right. Time travel.
yeah.
But what is, I mean, again, we're just in full speculation mode here, but I mean, what else can we be? I'm wondering what even his plan was. Like, obviously, he didn't know that he was going to get killed by the monster, but like, it seemingly was just growing larger and larger and was going to consume everything. Like,
Yeah.
I wonder what, like, did he think he would be able to control it and just
Well, I
like,
mean, it's Red Skull's crime is basically hubris. I mean, his ego is. I mean, even in the actual live action film, in the same very familiar scene where he kills the officer, Hitler's officer, in the movie, he's talking to Hitler's entourage, who's basically come to get a report, and he basically says they see a map with all like the locations that they're going to conquer, and they notice that Berlin is on the map. And that's what causes them to basically get killed is one of the officers says, wait a second, why is Berlin on this map?
yeah,
And Red Skull basically says, like, look, I have grander plans than just the Nazi army. We're talking about total domination via Hydra. I mean, so that has to be his plan, right? Is this is going to be Hydra's champion? It's going to serve me. It's going to now why he would think that he'd have any kind of pull to, you know, you obey me. Who
yeah,
knows? But I guess he envisioned, the Tesseract being a more powerful tool to control this creature. But as we saw, I mean, in the true nature of the Tesseract, which is raw, um, infinite power, it obviously brought forth a creature that was not controllable, and that they had to deal with very quickly. Because I think even Captain Carter says, or someone, maybe Howard Stark says, like, if we don't deal with this, it's basically gonna take over. I mean, it's gonna be endless, and it's gonna
yeah,
happen very quickly.
yeah.
So
Crazy. And yeah, I don't know. I kind of hope we do like, I don't know. Maybe I kind of hope we do see more like connective tissue here, and that like there is maybe some repercussions of that thing, even though she managed to push it back, but just that thing maybe like becoming aware of Earth, or
sure,
aware of this dimension, and maybe we do
yeah,
visit it in Doctor Strange. Um, but I will say, so kind of pushing forward from that moment when we have Peggy, appear at the other end in the I don't really that I guess it's not an Avengers facility because I don't think the Avengers necessarily existed yet, but whatever that
no, yeah,
shield
it's a
facility.
shield. It's a shield
Okay.
facility, right?
Um like what are the implications of that? Because in our timeline that we're familiar with, like that's where Loki comes out and, Steve was just defrosted from the ice, like or whatever it was. But
Well, the weird implication, the strange thing there is the reason that gets opened is because I can't remember if his name is Eric or whatever the scientist's
right,
name
yeah,
is.
yeah, Eric
He's
Selvig, I think.
he's being manipulated subtly by
By
Loki
Loki, that's
to
right.
purposely use the Tesseract to open the way, um,
So that he can come
open
through.
for him to come through.
Hmm.
And so if Loki's not coming through, what's the whole storyline of the Tesseract being
Yeah,
studied and manipulated and what have you? And where is Loki?
yeah.
So
So maybe, I mean, they had like, maybe Selvig is still studying the Tesseract because they like hired him to do that, and then Loki just manipulated him, right? So maybe they're still studying it for whatever reason, and like I don't know, that's just what happened. Like no one was pulling the strings, but that's just what happened. Or what if Loki still was pulling the strings for some reason and has some other motive? I don't know.
yeah,
It'll
yeah.
be it'll be. All right, go ahead.
I was gonna change the subject, so you go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, I was just gonna say it'll be interesting to see because I think I know we're getting a version of Thor in some of these some of these episodes, so it'll be interesting to see if like we do even see Loki at all.
Right. I got to ask you your take on who the Watcher is. And I know
Mm,
this is a character in the comics.
yeah.
I've, in true Blake fashion, I haven't done any real research on this. I don't know a lot about this, but picking up his dialogue, he says, always watching, always observing, but never basically getting involved.
Yeah.
And he doesn't just say, I don't, he says basically like, I can't, like, I'm not supposed to, like, or whatever the phrasing he uses is. Give me your take on the Watcher. My wife even asked, "Is that Kang? Is that a version of Kang?" Which we've seen how Marvel's taken their own spin on a traditional character in the comics and morphed it into whatever they envision for the cinematic universe.
Right.
I.e., Sylvie from Loki was not Sylvie from the comics. It was an actual Loki variant that they sort of somewhat combined the two identities
Right.
into. So give me your take. Who's the Watcher? What's going on here? And maybe you can give like the quick info on like who he is in the comics. But more importantly, I'd love to hear your take on the Watcher in the show.
All right. Yeah. So, and again, I'm no like expert on MCU canon, so like if
We
you
say
know
this as a
more,
disclaimer, yeah,
yeah.
for the people. We don't want people getting mad at us for,
So
actually in episode 81, this is what and you're like, okay, sorry.
So drop us down the knowledge in the comments if you
Yeah, yeah.
know. But so from my understanding, Watcher, there's more than one Watcher. So we are getting Uatu the Watcher, who is like the Watcher of our universe. So there are different Watchers. Like for there's one, I presume there's one for each like multiverse or universe or whatever the distinction is,
Okay.
and their job is to simply they're like these ancient like godlike beings, entities, and their purpose is to just like chronicle and like learn study from like everything that happens in their realm. And they are that's they're called watchers because that's all they do. Like they're not supposed to intervene, they're not supposed to do anything but watch and chronicle. So um
They're the ultimate creepers of the
yeah,
universe, is what I'm getting.
exactly. And they've been depicted as like kind of humanoid-esque. Like we've seen the silhouette in What If. Like
Yeah.
it's got like a kind of large head.
Big
Um,
brain man. Yeah.
exactly. But we've actually seen them in the MCU before. If you remember, I think it was Guardians 2 with
Yeah.
Stan Lee is talking to
Yes.
like three of these humanoid dudes.
We talked about this in a previous episode where I was asking, okay, what's the tie-in there? And you even pointed out then, like, I think those are the Watchers.
Yeah.
But anyway, continue.
So I was just gonna say, if you are familiar with that scene, it's like that's what they are typically depicted at, those like large, like kind of pale skinned, humanoid, large head dudes. But what's interesting here is that we've got like a galaxy silhouette that we're being presented with, which I'm not sure if that's like just a um what's the word? Not metaphor's not the right word, but if that's like a just creative choice to kind of like display the fact that he's watching and he's not actually like this galactic sized silhouette. So I'm not really sure if that's like an artistic choice or if they're like kind of changing what a watcher is for this. But in What If, he kind of is more reminiscent of this other like ancient entity in the Marvel comics called Eternity. Which Eternity is like this galactic sized like his basically body is like stars and galaxies and stuff, which is kind of the vibe
Interesting.
we've been getting from this, because you know like his eyes are stars or whatever it is. But yeah, there's not, I mean, that's for the most part it's it. Like the watchers are just supposed to sit there and watch, and I think to me it's been a cool way to kind of like give us the perspective to tell these stories, because it's like, oh, this is
Yeah, he's
the watcher knows these things because you know that's his
effectively
job.
our
Right.
narrator for the show.
Right. Um so I mean, as far as the quick biography, that's really all I've got. But what I think would be interesting would be to see if we actually do get to interact with him more as a character at all. Like, um, what's been interesting to me is the idea of, you know, we just saw Loki, so He Who Remains slash Kang. Um, you'd think that maybe he might is on kind of like with the playing field he's on, maybe would interact with someone like a watcher. Like
Right.
if someone's out here, you know, cleaving universes down from like an infinite number to a very small amount that he deems the sacred timeline, you'd think that might be something that would need intervening. So I'm wondering if, you know, they have any type of connection or have if he's communicated on that level or anything.
Yeah, you thought the TVA was bad. You know, wait till you meet the Watcher entourage.
That's right.
Yeah, this is interesting for sure, and it makes me wonder the implications of like the hierarchy beyond this of like who set up the Watchers, why did they watch?
Right.
You know, you mentioned like this purpose of like chronicling, or like what through what mechanism were they set and established and basically put in the position to do these kinds of things? And more importantly, would we ever be heading towards a moment where a watcher stops watching and actually intervenes?
That'd be interesting.
Which I don't know.
Which
Seems to be
uh
the implication of the Eternals, which will,
yeah,
you
I was
know,
actually going to bring that up because you were talking about like this hierarchy of power, as it were, on like the highest scales in the MCU, like beyond, like we're talking gods and like gods and gods, which the Watchers are part of that thing. And speaking of the Eternals, a new trailer just dropped, really good. We won't talk
yeah,
about that here. I don't want to get distracted, but the Celestials are like near the top of that hierarchy, and we're gonna find out more about them in Eternals. So we're the MCU's kind of slow dripping us this more cosmic scale of stuff. So it'll be super interesting to kind of figure all this out.
it will be. Yeah, and obviously, you know, we're here for the ride, and hopefully, I mean, I know there's a ton of fans who really enjoy the movies who are probably also enjoying the ride. As you know, one thing I trust the Marvel team. You know, I'm trying to stop just saying like trusting Kevin Feige, although he's definitely done a great job. But like looking at like the credits for each of these Marvel movies and realizing that it's um the same people over and
Mm-hmm.
over again. You know, we joke about Sarah Finn,
Yeah.
Sarah
Shout
Haley
out.
Finn.
Yeah.
She's been in charge of casting since day one. So this has been like a group of people who have collaboratively built this universe. So I'm trying to do a better job of referencing that as a whole. But one thing we've seen is that these people, they know how to drip feed and to create long form content that spans a multitude of formats. So as the scale seems to be growing larger and larger, it does make me just wonder, okay, like where's this going? Not in a negative way, but just out of excitement of,
Yeah.
okay, where is this going? And you know, it's funny going back and watching, you know, Iron Man 1 and having no idea like what's going to
Right.
happen beyond this film.
Right.
And
Look
you
where
know,
we
as my
are
wife and
now.
I were, yeah, as we're choosing like the next movie, which Disney has it all organized in terms of each one film coming out,
Mm-hmm.
but just seeing it head eventually towards Infinity War and
Yeah.
Endgame. I mean, it's like we had no idea. And it's exciting to kind of have that same sense of naivety of
Yeah.
we have no idea where this is going and what's the implication. And I have incredible trust for the team to have the payoff be there. So
Yeah, I'm excited.
me too.
And I mean, we could keep postulating on this for forever, you know.
Yeah,
But
sure.
I don't want to make our episode discussing it like 4 times longer than the content itself. But
Yeah. Our
so
5-hour deep dive on episode 1, the first 10 minutes.
there we go.
Yeah, yeah.
But
No, and yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say see if you had anything else you wanted to explicitly go into.
I'm ready to talk about episode 2, so I think we need to record that one.
Yeah. All right, I'm down. So yeah, episode 1, liked it, pleasantly surprised, and can't wait to see more.
Yeah, and as always, for you guys who are watching and listening, we want to know what you think about it. What do you think? What did you think about episode 1 of What If? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What was your reaction to it? What are your theories for what's implied by the show and what could happen next? Let us know down in the YouTube comments. We love to reply to it. And you can also tweet at us at PXLists on Twitter, and we'll respond to you, let you know what we think, what our thoughts are. So definitely don't be a stranger. Part of the fun, we have said this a few times, but like one of the coolest things about watching Lost back in the day was like getting in with the community on, okay, well, what's happening there? And we've kind of
100%.
lost that a little bit since so many shows get released, in completion now.
Yeah.
So this is, for me, it's kind of exciting to have these conversations again with people.
Yeah.
So don't be a stranger.
Yeah, we love it.
So we need to do a thumbnail.
Yeah, we do. You got any ideas?
I think for the first episode, maybe it's kind of like a postulating, like a what if?
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. Yeah, let's do it. You ready?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
All right.
Alrighty. Well,
Thank you guys for tuning in.
yeah. Till next time.
Deuces.
Bye.